Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. Today we are doing a budget deck tech, and this time it's the Cyber Controller, nothing to fear but mill. So this is very much a mill deck, and I haven't built one of these before, so this is kind of an interesting little departure for me. The Cyber Controller, so going over him first, X blue and black. Again, he is dimir. Is his actual color identity, but it's kind of not really. Alright, so when the Cyber Controller enters the battlefield, each opponent mills X cards, so the X cost there. Put all creature cards milled this way onto the battlefield under your face down under your control. There are two cybermen artifact creatures. One important point I want to make: these do not count as tokens. They're not token creatures, they're artifact creatures. They are very much like tokens, but they're face down creatures. They're not tokens. So anything giving a bonus to tokens doesn't help this at all. Okay, other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. That's already crazy. Like, he's going to be everyone mills X, and then you get all of their creatures as 2/2 Cybermen. And yeah, they automatically become 3/3 Cybermen. One more sticking point about Cybermen is that, well, they are face-down creatures like a lot of other things have, like Cloak and things like that. You can't flip them over. There is one kind of loophole there. If they have like a morph cost or something like that, then you can do that, alright? But normally you're not able to flip them over, which is unfortunate, but we have some solutions for that in the deck here. Or a solution, anyway. Okay, 13 cents only. Okay, so this is an odd commander for, again, another reason he's an odd commander is, well, it does have dimir color identity. He is primarily focused on colorless, right? He has dimir. Dimir is almost more of a support color with this commander, right? This commander is, yeah, not really concerned so much. The black and blue give you a lot of useful options. They're not really necessary for his main strategy, though. So a final quirk of the Cyber Controller is that as a commander is that being knocked back to the command zone while not being good it does give a major benefit. So this is a commander where, like, a lot of standard tactics do not work well against him because returning him to the command zone is kind of a benefit. Taking out your commander gives you another bite at the apple for his ETB, right? Every time you cast him, it's going to cost 2 more to cast him once he's in the command zone. That's true, but you are going to be able to keep using his ETB over and over and over. And the later in the game it gets, the more mana you have to pump into that. And it gets really out of control very quickly, right? You're going to be making them mill quite a lot and getting a lot of Cybermen. If they want to keep using board wipes, which they'll probably have to do if you're making a good number of Cybermen, then you're going to, yeah, just get kind of value out of getting board. If they cast a board wipe, that's value for you. It makes their decision making very hard, is my point. The deck price, at the moment, it is $37.52. That was actually last night. I didn't check it today, I probably should have. It seems like even in the span of a few hours it can change quite a bit. Design objective: take maximum advantage of the Cyber Controller's mill ability. As I said, I haven't built a mill deck before, so I need a lot of input, which the budget commander group on Facebook was very helpful with, so that's nice. Then again, this price is determined using the TCG player market price. Not a sponsor. No. I remembered. Shipping cost is high, though. So one of my commenters, I forget the name now. But anyway, has pointed out a couple times the shipping cost is actually more than the deck price. So sometimes going to Card Kingdom is actually better. I contacted TCG Player and I asked if there was like a code or something I could use to reduce the shipping cost, and they still haven't gotten back to me. It's been several days now. I got another email saying that they are going to get back to me, but they have not. Anyway, so you can check the deck on moxville.com. The link is in the description. Okay, part 1, the cyber controller. So this is about the commander. We already talked about him quite a bit, but yeah, just going over it one more time. So his ETB is each opponent mills X cards, the X cost X. Creatures milled become 2/2 cybermen face down under your control. Face down creatures under your control. Again, they are automatically 3/3s, so I'm going to boost that up even more. High synergy cards. So first of all, Master of Ethereum. We've got more than one card that has this kind of anthem effect, but it's very important. He's maybe the best one, or she, maybe she. For 2 and a blue, question mark. Master of Ethereum's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifacts you control. Your artifact creatures do absolutely count, right? So this is going to be big. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Those Cybermen that are 2/2s, your commander makes them 3/3s, Master of Ethereum makes them 4/4s. And we've got another one here that can make them 5/5s. And then Steel Overseer that can put +1/+1 counters on them, making them 6/6s. A whole bunch of 6/6s is no joking matter. Illicit shipment. Okay, this is kind of a weird one. It's not a popular tutor, but I think it's a great tutor. For 3 black, that's it right there. Why it's not popular? The casting cost sounds high. 5 sounds very high for a tutor, right? I don't think it is. Casualty 3. As you cast a spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 3 or greater. When you do, copy this spell. All of your Cybermen are going to be at minimum 3/3s. So you cast the spell, sacrifice 1 Cyberman, and what do? You search the library for a card, put it into your hand, not on top of the library, any of that nonsense, straight into your hand, then shuffle. So sacrificing 1 Cyberman when you cast this for 5 mana is going to get you 2 cards for 5 mana. 2. That's nuts. That's nuts. Most of the win cons in this deck are like, you don't really maybe even need 2 for the win con. You might already have something on the board that helps as well. You probably will. But yeah, there are plenty of ways where you can just turn this into like oh, I got everything I need to win now. Especially if you're down to 1 versus 1, it's going to be like, this is just like basically a win card right here. I never know how to say her name. Etrata? Deadly Fugitive. Okay, so she is 1 dimir for a 1/4 death touch. Not great, but... Face down creatures you control have 2 dimir, so again, blue-black. Turn this creature face up. If you can't exile it, then cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So this will let you turn any Cyberman face up, right? Cybermen do not have to stay face down if you've got a way to flip them over. They just don't come with a way to flip them over unless the card has morph. Is the one kind of loophole, and this is making another loophole where you can get whatever you want, right? You can look at all the cards that are face down. You're allowed to look at them. The player who milled the cards is not allowed to look at them, but you are allowed to look at them. That makes it pretty scary. As soon as if you've got Cybermen, even a few Cybermen, as soon as she hits the board, attacking you is a real bad idea. Okay, so flipping a card over, first of all, it does happen at instant speed. It takes place immediately. You can assign a Cyberman as a blocker and then be like, I'm paying the cost now, and flip it over. Also, flipping a card over is a very weird one because it does not enter the stack. any kind of counter, any kind of anything, can't even interact with it. It avoids the stack altogether. So yeah, something like something with like split second, you know, where it just ends the actions just automatically. Even something like that does not work against this. This happens immediately and it doesn't enter the stack. So anything that usually can counter an ability or counter anything, this ignores it. It's kind of just a way around all of that, which is incredible. And second, whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to an opponent, cloak the top card of that player's library. Meh, right? Don't really care. And frankly, we're going to potentially have assassins, but we usually don't. We're going to talk about that later. Consuming Aberration. This one's nuts. Okay, so once again, it is 3 dimir, so blue-black. Consuming Aberration's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyards. So you're filling up their graveyards fast, and this is going to have the power of all of the cards in all of their graveyards. The power and toughness. It's going to be a big boy, basically. Another big boy. Master of Ethereum is another one, and we actually have a third one that works on this as well. Whenever you cast a spell for each opponent reveals from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, then puts those cards into the graveyard. So they're going to just start, like, every time you cast a spell, they're going to have to, like, mill a whole bunch of cards. All of your opponents have to. A lot of your spells force people to mill cards as well. So they're going to mill a bunch of cards and then they have to mill more cards. This is really just like, as I put, double salt. Yeah, it's double salt. Oh. This one is Master Transmuter for 3 and a blue. A 1/2, so not great there, but oh boy. This might be the most useful card in the deck, I think. Return an artifact you control to its owner's hand. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. Any artifact you control, you can just put straight into the battlefield. Mana rocks, things like that, just drop them straight in, no problem. Okay, this is super useful for your commander, right? You want to be able to keep reusing his ETB, and this is going to let you just like basically unsummon him and go straight back to your hand and put him straight back down over and over and over. This is just going to like be so much pain, I think. Alright, so what are the deck objectives here? Ramp, cost reduction being always important, much more so when your commander has an X cost. That's mill and win cons. Okay, mill is a weird one because that comes right into your win cons. That I think is how this deck is going to win a lot of the time. Okay, so I'm actually going to cover cost reduction first because it makes sense. I'll get there. So Master Transmuter we already talked about. Again, you're returning one thing to your hand and putting any other artifact down, right? You don't want to use your commander because the X cost would be 0. It would count as 0, but pretty much anything else that in this deck would be great. Giora's Familiar, I always say with an R, but anyway, is a flying 2/2 and historic spells cost 1 less to cast, artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. Again, we are all about the artifacts, the rest kind of doesn't matter. Kappa Cannoneer. Okay, this is a weird one, but yeah. Improvise. Your artifacts help cast this spell. Each artifact you tap, when you're done activating mana abilities, pay for 1. So again, you can tap 5 artifacts and cast this for 1 blue. So he's a creature that has kind of the cost reduction built in, but he's amazing at it. So yeah. He'd be a 4/4 with Ward 4 for 1 blue mana. Ward, yes, flawed, but still better than nothing. Whenever Kappa Cannoneer or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Kappa Cannoneer, and it can't be blocked this turn. So right when he enters the battlefield, he puts a +1/+1 counter on himself, making him a 5/5. I feel like I read that wrong. No. And then every other artifact you control that enters, again, enters the battlefield. Yeah, it is enters the battlefield. So if Kappa Cannoneer is out and you cast your commander, all of those Cybermen coming in trigger him, giving him +1/+1 and making him unblockable until end of turn. Getting that damage through and just buffing him like crazy. So yeah, very great card in this deck. Chief Engineer. Artifact spells you control have Convoke. Basically what he has. So your creatures can help pay the spell of these cast those spells. Each creature you tap basically makes all of your creatures into mana dorks that make colorless mana. So yeah, only for artifact spells though. Archway of Innovation. Here we go. A land. So that's a great one. And when it enters the battlefield, tapped. Yep. Tap for 1 blue, and for 1 blue and tap. The next spell you cast this turn has Improvise. The next spell. Not the next creature spell or anything like that. Any spell. You pay 1 blue, tap it. Essentially it costs you 2, keep in mind, because you're not getting mana from it. So, but it gives anything Improvise. So those Cybermen can all just count as like mana dorks, or colorless mana dorks, I guess. But yeah, you can use that to cut the cost of like everything. Now the ramp. Okay, Wayfarer's Bauble. This I don't put in enough decks, but remember with even Joris Familiar out, this is free. This is 0. So you cast it for 0, immediately tap it for 2, sacrifice it, go get a basic land, comes in the battlefield, tapped. Vidalcan Engineer. It is a mana dork that is only good for add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. So it is only for artifacts, but he makes 2 mana of any color you want. Once again, your commander does have 2 blue in the casting cost, so he'd be able to do that by himself. Huge. Blink Moth Urn. This is one where you kinda might want to be careful, but if you're playing against someone else who has a whole bunch of artifacts, you might end up helping them too much, but yeah. I have this in my Saheeli deck, I love it. At the beginning of each player's pre-combat main phase, if Blink Moth Urn is untapped, that player adds colorless to his or her mana pool for each artifact he controls, or he or she controls. So all of your Cybermen are just like automatically giving you mana. Remember, that mana is only there for the pre-combat main phase. At the end of every phase, you lose all of your mana. Your mana pool empties out. So you do have to use it during your pre-combat main phase, but still incredible, right? All of those Cybermen just all suddenly are like mana dorks you don't even have to tap to like get the mana for. Oh. And if it's tapped, it doesn't give the player... This applies to all players. The other players probably will not have as many artifacts as you, number 1. Number 2, if you tap it, they don't get anything. How do you tap it though? We're going to get to that. Thran Dynamo. I love this card. Again, in my Saheeli deck. It is 4, add 3 colorless to your mana pool. So kind of like mana-wise, it's better than Soul Ring. Price or CMC-wise, much worse. This is one of the reasons why I want to do cost reduction first. With cost reduction, this becomes crazy valuable, right? If you can cast this, you can potentially cast this for free, and then it's just like upgraded Soul Ring for free. Oh boy. Ever-Flowing Chalice. Okay, this has multi-kicker 2, and for every time you pay the multi-kicker cost, you can tap it for 1 more colorless mana. So again, if you cast it for 8, It's going to have 4 counters on it. It'll make 4 colorless mana every time you tap it. What you really want to do is get Blink Moth Urn down first, or even a bunch of cost reduction, and then cast this, right? If you have like that, if you're able to use Chief Engineer's Improvise and tap a whole bunch of the Cybermen, then cast this for a huge, get a whole bunch on it, and then you return your commander to your hand, and then play him again, making that X cost huge, and just like mill out everybody and get tons of Cybermen. Alright, mill. We're looking at the mill, which is a major, probably the #1 win con. But anyway, traumatize. For 3 blue, so getting pricey, but it's a sorcery. Target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded down into his or her graveyard. So just take 50% of your deck, throw it in the graveyard immediately. Oh. Nemesis of Reason. Once again, 5 mana. And it's a 3/7 whenever it attacks. Remember, attacks, not does damage or anything like that, just attacks. Defending player mills 10 cards. Keening Stone. You're probably seeing a combo already. For it costs 6, cost reduction. And for 5, once again, we got mana dorks that can help pay that. Target player mills X cards, where X is the number of cards in that player's graveyard. You see it. I'm sure you see it. Teferi's Tutelage. So when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card? Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. We do have cards that let you just draw X cards and things like that. So if you've got that, or even one of your card draw engines set up, you can just like mill people out very quickly. Remember, if you draw 5 cards, they mill 10. Whew! And you get to choose the player. You can break it up however you want. You don't have to like hit them all with 10. You can be like, okay, 4 for you, 4 for you, 2 for you. However you want to do it. Finally, yeah, Consuming Aberration we already talked about. Win con #1. Again, my first win con is always battle. The first win con you should always think about is the battle win con. Alright, so reverse the polarity. It's a modal spell, an amazing modal spell. Almost broken, I think. Counter all spells. Switch each creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Weird one, but okay. Creatures can't be blocked this turn. The main thing we want this for is #3. Creatures can't be blocked this turn, right? You make a bunch of Cybermen. You make it so they can't be blocked. You win. That's it. Right? Super simple. Win con #2. So this is a bit more in the weeds, but Bone Horde. 4 to cast, and then yeah, equip 2. Equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. So you need to know how many creature cards are in all the graveyards. This gives anything +X/+X equal to that. Aqueous Form. Enchanted creature can't be blocked, and whenever it attacks you get to scry 1. Scry is good, you know, but yeah. Whenever it attacks it can't be blocked. So you're going to make this huge and unblockable. You're milling not just with your commander, remember there's a whole bunch of other mill cards. You're going to be milling people like crazy. They're going to have lots of creatures in their graveyard. Win con 3. Traumatize and Keening Stone. I know you saw this before, but Traumatize. Throw out half your deck. Keening Stone. Do that again. Just even if they have an even number of cards in their deck, that just takes them out immediately. If they have an odd number, then they're going to like go down to 1 card. So not quite be eliminated, but close enough. Anywho, yeah. It is getting up there, you know. If you want to do this both in 1 turn, hopefully you've got the cost reduction or something. But Yeah, that would theoretically cost 10 mana, assuming King Stone's already on the battlefield. If you did both in the same turn, it would be 10 mana. So that would be steep. Part 3, combos and tactics. So this is all about how to get the most value out of the deck. Bouncy Rock. Okay, so Master Transmuter, Jora's Familiar, really any cost reduction is what I mean by Jora's Familiar. And we do have more than I was able to show before. Finally, Soul Ring. Good old-fashioned Soul Ring, right? So you tap Soul Ring, you get the mana, right? You get the 2 colorless mana, you pay the 1 blue, tap Master Transmuter, return Soul Ring to your hand, put down anything you want. And then you just put Soul Ring back down for 0. Then you can tap it again for mana. So you've gotten a free artifact and you've created 4 mana for 1 blue. That's absolutely crazy. This is really not about this specific combo. Again, any cost reduction, it doesn't have to do Jora's Familiar, and really any artifact can work. As long as you're able to reduce the cost to 0 or even close to. It can work. It's really mostly about thinking, what can I do with Master Transmuter? This is a very, very flexible card in this deck because there are almost everything is an artifact creature. So you can just keep pumping out the artifact creatures or artifacts and like getting that value. Especially if it's something you can tap, return to your hand, put down, tap again. Always something to think of. More synergy. Speaking of those artifact creatures, we've got Arcbound Condor, which is modular 3. Again, it gets +1/+1 encounters. When it comes in, it's a 0/0. It's a flying 3/3 because it has 3 +1/+1 counters. And when it dies, it puts all those counters on another artifact creature, anything you want. You choose and just throw them all on there. So that's really good. And whenever another artifact creature enters the battlefield under your control, not cast, just enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So again, this is about like your commander bringing all of those cybermen, creating all of them. You're going to give out -1/-1s until end of turn. Basically, you can like board wipe your opponent with this. This is a very powerful combination. Padim, Console of Innovation. Artifacts you control have hexproof. Very good. And if you have the control of the artifact with the highest mana value or tied for the highest, draw a card. This is one reason why Kappa is so good in this deck. Not only that he has cost reduction built in, but even if you cast him for 1, you still count it as 5 for this, right? He still counts as being like a 5 mana CMC or a 5 CMC artifact for this. A lot of people are going to have like their mana rocks and stuff are maxed out around 3. They don't want to pay more than 3. So there's a good chance you're going to have the one with the highest. So anywho, that's drawing an extra card every turn, right? Nick Valentine, Private Eye. So he can't be blocked except by artifact creatures, which is nice. And whenever Nick Valentine or another artifact creature you control dies, you may investigate. Again, this is turning that, if you've got him and a bunch of Cybermen out, someone casts the board wipe, hey great, your commander's back in the command zone, you can cast your commander again. Also, you're going to get just a pile of clue tokens that you can sacrifice to draw cards. Just huge, huge, huge. Anyway, yeah. All the cards, because we didn't have enough card draw before, we definitely would like some more. Your Cybermen. Again, if you're not attacking with them, do something with them, right? They can already make a bunch of mana. You can use them to help pay for things by tapping them, or you don't even have to tap them with Blank Moth Urn. Here, if you haven't tapped them, Shimmer Dragon, you can tap two artifacts and draw a card. So at the player before you, right on their end step, you're going to be like, okay, I'm just tapping, including Blink Moth Urn. This lets you tap Blink Moth Urn to prevent anyone else from getting mana except for you. Very useful little trick I managed to pull off recently, actually. So yeah, you're going to just tap your Blink Moth Urn right away, and probably a whole bunch of cybermen on the previous player's end step, and then you just have pretty much your card draw sorted for the game right there. The value train does not end there. So we got Roshan, Hidden Magister. It is Roshan, right? I always think Dota 2, but anyway. And Etrata, Deadly Fugitive. Okay, Roshan is the one we haven't brought up before, so other creatures you control are assassins, so this makes all of your cybermen into assassins, which triggers Deadly Fugitive's thing. Whenever an assassin you control deals damage to an opponent, cloak the top card of that player's library. So you're going to be able to cloak the card? Sure, why not? But face down creatures you control have menace. This is giving all of your cybermen are now like 3/3s at minimum with menace. And lots of ways to boost that up even more so. So yeah, menace does a lot of work when you have a whole bunch of creatures, that's for sure. Whenever a opponent you control is turned face up, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Again, so Etrata is going to let you flip them over, which is useful, and then when you flip them over, if you have Roshan on the battlefield, you're also going to draw a card and lose 1 life. But losing 1 life is worth 1 card for sure. Cast until they drop. Okay, so Consuming Aberration, again, every time you cast a spell, it's going to mill them some. But now, when they cast a spell, we've got Force Fruition. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player draws 7 cards. This is a bit dangerous, admittedly, because you're giving them lots of options, right? But at the end of their turn, they're going to have to discard down to 7. They're guaranteed to have more. Especially if you combine this with Desynchronization. Return each non-land permanent to that's not historic to its owner's hand. So you're just going to be pretty much bouncing almost their whole board. Anything that's not historic, again, artifacts, legendaries, and sagas, anything that's not one of those goes back to their hand, and then if Force Fruition's out, they cast a spell, they draw 7 cards. Cast a spell, draw 7 cards. They have to decide, do I want to recast things on my board, or do I want to do this new thing? At the end of the turn, they're discarding down to 7, so that's a whole lot more in their graveyard, right? It's not really mill, it's mill with extra steps. That can be troublesome steps, but it does... The desynchronization, I think, Force Fruition, your main thing is you're saying, hey, this gives them a lot of extra... Kinda can give them everything they need, potentially. But desynchronization, they have to choose, right? Do I want my stuff back, or am I going to cast this new thing? So yeah. It's a very... It makes tough choices. Call of the Grave. Alright, so we got Guilt Feeder. Whenever Guilt Feeder attacks and isn't blocked, defending player loses 1 life for each card in their graveyard. Okay, this is 0/4 with Fear. Again, Fear means it can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. So if they have no artifact creatures and they're not black color identity, Guilt Feeder's just getting through. A lot of times, I think a lot of decks, Guilt Feeder's just going to get through no problem, and then they take damage for all of that mill you've been doing all game. Which can, again, 40 life at the start, 100 cards. Even if you knock half of their deck out, and Guilt Feeder gets through, that's the end of it. They're out of the game. Anyway, Cruel Somnophage. Okay, Can't wake up. Target player mills 4 cards. It has the adventure to some more mill. Why not? And its power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. So basically, it's another version of Consuming Aberration. At least for its attack and toughness, it is. And then Bone Horde we already talked about. So again, we got kind of 4 things here that will all get bonuses based on the number of discard cards. Guilt Feeder, only that player's graveyard, but all of it, the graveyard. And the other ones are based on the number of creatures in all other graveyards, okay? One more time. Okay, so this is all about returning your commander to your hand. Master Transmuter is my number 1 pick for this, obviously. Unsubstantiate is great because it can kind of function like a counter spell or something to let you put your commander back. Again, return target spell to its creature or a creature to its owner's hand. So you can put any creature or spell back into its owner's hand. Remember, if it's a spell and it's their turn, they can just do it again if they have the mana. So, somewhat situational, but flexible situational. Finally, Ether Channeler. Alright, create a 1/1 bird creature token with flying, or he's modal. Right. Should have said that first. For 2 in a blue, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Again, you can use this for your commander, or if you already have Master Transmuter on the board and you don't need to do it again, you could, even if Master Transmuter's out, I guess you could play your commander, then play him, then return your commander again to play him again, which you probably don't want to do. If you have that much mana, I don't know how. But, you can, return your commander or put anything, any non-land permanent. Again, enchantments, artifacts, whatever you want, just back to their hand, get them out of your way. It is it's kind of opening up a hole. It's not really solving a problem, though. Finally, draw a card, which is always nice. Can't touch this. Aqueous Form we talked about, making things unblockable. Whatever's enchanting is unblockable. Kappa Cannoneer is going to be unblockable most of the time, every time an artifact enters the battlefield. Yeah, it is artifact, not artifact creature. Enters the battlefield, +1/+1, and unblockable. And then reverse the polarity. Make everything unblockable for that turn only. But yeah, that should be all you need. Anyway, this has been the Cyber Controller. Nothing to fear but mill. Alright. I hope you liked it, and take it easy.